All right, in this assignment, we are reviewing some material that you learned in middle school. So we are going to be reviewing area and circumference of a circle. So first I want to just review the formulas with you. For area, in order to find area of a circle, you use pi times the radius squared, so pi r squared. For circumference, we actually have two different formulas. A lot of you are familiar with 2 pi r, so that's 2 times pi times the radius. However, you can also use diameter times pi. It really just depends on what you're given in each problem. So we'll talk about when to use which one in just a little bit. And a review on diameter. Diameter is equal to 2 times the radius. I'm going to give you a little bit of a diagram over on the side here, just to show you diameter versus radius. Diameter is the whole distance across the circle from one endpoint through the center to another endpoint. So that's our diameter. Whereas radius just goes from the center out to an endpoint on the circle. So that would be your radius, okay? The diameter is 2 times the radius. So the first thing you have to be able to do is calculate circumference, okay? So again, I'm just going to remind you of that formula. We're going to be using 2 pi r. And in this problem, we're given the radius of 5. So I'm just going to plug in 5 for the radius, 2 times pi times 5. And you would multiply 2 times 5 together to get 10 pi. Please just leave pi in your answer. We call this exact form. It just makes it easier. There's no need to pick up your calculator. Otherwise, you're going to get a nice long decimal. So this is in simplified exact form, and this is what we want to see. Okay. Next, let's do area. So area is pi r squared. And again, for this problem, we're told that the radius is 5. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in 5 for the radius. Pi times 5 squared. Follow order of operations. You're going to want to do the exponent first. So 5 squared is 25. You end up with 25 times pi. That's your final answer for the area. So now go ahead and do practice problem number 1, and then I'll go over it with you to make sure you got the correct answer. Okay, for practice problem number 1, we're finding the circumference of a circle with a radius of 7. So I'm going to plug it into my circumference formula, 2 pi times 7. And you end up with an answer of 14 pi. And then you're finding area of that exact same circle. So I'm going to use my area formula, pi times the radius, so 7 squared. I'm going to square that 7 to get 49, and you end up with 49 pi. So there's our answer there. Okay, for example 2, let's go ahead and move this on up. This time, we're being given the diameter. So we're going to talk about how to find area and circumference when you're being given the diameter instead of the radius. So first, you can always take your diameter and find the radius. Remember that the diameter is just 2 times the radius. So if my diameter is 8, 8 is equal to 2 times the radius. You can simply divide by 2 and find out that the radius is 4. Okay, some of you might use an equation for that. Some of you might just think about it in your head like, oh, if the diameter is 8, I have to cut it in half to find the radius. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and find circumference. Now here's where you have some flexibility with the formulas. So you can use 2 pi r, and then you're going to use the radius that you just found of 4. But it is faster if you use diameter times pi. Since you're already given the diameter, you just find out that the circumference is 8 pi, and that's your final answer. Okay, so when given diameter, it's best or easiest to use this formula here, the second option. Now, when you're trying to find the area of a circle and you're given the diameter, you have to find the radius first, okay? Because our only formula for area is pi times the radius squared. So remember that we found a radius of 4. So we're going to do pi times 4 squared. Okay, go ahead and evaluate. 4 squared is 16, and we get 16 pi. That's our final answer. All right, go ahead and try it on your own with practice problem number 2. All right, let's take a look at practice problem number 2. If the find the radius of a circle with a diameter of 12. If the diameter is 12, I'm just going to divide by 2 and find out the radius is 6. What's the circumference of a circle with a diameter of 12? Remember to just use that diameter times pi formula, and you end up with 12 pi. And then for area, we have to use the radius that we found in that first part. We're going to do pi times the radius squared. So 6 squared gives us 36. Our answer is 36 pi. Okay? All right, moving on to example 3. Now, example 3 is a little bit different. Now we're kind of going in reverse. I'm giving you the area. See, the area of a circle is 28.5, and I'm asking you for the radius. So let's first focus on our area formula. I'm going to go ahead and write it out for us, and we're going to plug in what we know. So if we know the area is 28.5, I'm going to put that on the left side of my equation here and set that equal to pi r squared. Now, since we're trying to find the radius, we need to solve for r. So first thing we need to do is divide by pi, and this is where you are going to have to pick up your calculator. You're going to do 28.5 divided by pi, and you get an answer of 9.07. It is a longer decimal. I rounded it, but I am keeping that whole entire decimal in my calculator because my next step to solve for r, since I have r squared, is to take the square root of both sides. So now in my calculator, I'm taking the square root of that long decimal that I had, and I end up with a final answer of 3.01. And we are dealing with inches, so I'm going to go ahead and add units onto my answer, 3.01 inches. Okay? Why don't you go ahead and try the next one, practice problem number 3. All right, for practice problem number 3, you should have set 52 equal to pi r squared. And then again, divide by pi, because remember, we're solving for r, trying to get r by itself. So now in my calculator, I'm doing 52 divided by pi, and I get 16.55 is equal to the radius squared. I have to get rid of that exponent of 2. The way to do that is to take the square root. So now I'm taking the square root of that decimal that's in my calculator, and I end up with a final answer of 4.07 after rounding. Okay, and now it's time for our last example problem. We are being given the circumference of the circle this time, and now we're being asked for the diameter. Because we're being asked for the diameter, I'm really going to encourage you to use the formula of diameter times pi, okay? But I will show you how to do it with the other formula just in case you choose to use that one. So this time we're being given the circumference is 14.5. I'm going to plug that in for C and set that equal to diameter times pi. Remember, we're solving for D, so all we need to do here is divide by pi and get our final answer. So the diameter is equal to 4.62. Okay, now let's say you didn't want to memorize that second formula, that diameter times pi. Say you just wanted to use the 2 pi r. That's what you're comfortable with. Let's walk through how to do it that way. So I'm still going to plug in 14.5 for C is equal to 2 pi r. And what you're going to need to do here is divide by 2 pi in order to get the radius by itself. Now, the only problem with this is when you do it in your calculator, you need to make sure that full 2 pi is in the denominator. So you're going to have to put parentheses around it when you divide, okay? So 14.5 divided by 2 pi, make sure you include those parentheses, and that's going to give you a radius of 2.31. But remember, we don't want the radius, we want the diameter. And to find the diameter, you need to double your radius. So 2 times 2.31, and that'll give you that 4.62 that we found earlier. Again, I really think this first option, the one on the left here, is the way to go. But if you don't want to memorize a second formula, you want to just use 2 pi r, you can use that one as well. All right, go ahead and, before you try practice problem number 4, I think some of you might have a mistake on your worksheet. Some of you might have it corrected, but this should say circumference instead of area. Here, let me use a different color just to make sure that you understand or see what I'm changing here. Instead of area, the circumference of the circle is 60 units, okay? Go ahead and try practice problem number 4. Okay, so for number 4, you should have taken that circumference, that's 60, and set it equal to diameter times pi. Then we're going to divide both sides by pi in order to find the diameter. So I'm doing 60 divided by pi. Let's see, and I got an answer of 19.1. There is our final answer.